As a kid, like I was 14 years old. I didn't know any better. I was a teenager. I was just learning. And for the school to be able to sit there and do that, it it really surprised me because I thought we have our freedom of speech. Like I thought I had a First Amendment. But when the school did that, I was like I was questioning a lot of stuff. And it's just the fact that it was on my social media and it wasn't on school grounds that they shouldn't have punished me.
She uses social media like I think a lot of kids do. That's just the way they talk now. When I was her age, I called people on the phone, but apparently that's not what happens anymore. So.
Right. And it's even, like now people reshare posts on their Instagram stories. Could you get in trouble for that if it doesn't come out of your mouth, but you repost it? I think there's a lot of really interesting implications here.
Like you said, essentially, if the school district had their way, kids, teenagers, they wouldn't have a childhood. It's over because anything they could say, anything they do, for fear that they're going to be disciplined, even if they're at the beach 1,000 miles away and they post something online, they won't be able to enjoy themselves as they're growing up.
And I know for a fact I was not the only 14-year-old who spoke like that. And like almost every 14-year-old I know now still speaks like that.
I think, for kids, I think it's really important that we teach them why we value free speech in this country, and allowing schools to punish them simply because their speech might offend other people in the school is not teaching them about First Amendment values. And it's also important that kids feel free to express themselves. Brandy was expressing her frustration about, not making the varsity team and, other issues going on in her life. And she shouldn't be afraid that the school district's looking over her shoulder every time she expresses how she feels, even if she wants to use colorful language to do so. There's no indication that Brandy was speaking on behalf of the school or involved in any kind of school activity, even a closed case.
And this isn't the first time a case like this has come up, of course. What have previous cases determined for free speech of students, and how do you think that those results will potentially impact this case?
Yeah, so all of the U.S. Supreme Court cases to date that deal with student speech have involved speech that takes place inside the school. So this will be the first case that focuses on speech outside of school and whether schools punish that kind of speech. The other courts across the country have sort of assumed that some of the courts in school speech cases apply to off-campus speech, but the case that is being appealed from here was decided by the Third Circuit, and the Third Circuit was the first court in the country to definitively say, no, we're not going to allow schools to punish kids simply because their speech is disruptive if it happens off campus, and that there has to be some connection between the speech and school's authority. So for example, if students are at a school event or an away game, or they're supervised from the school in some way, so that would include remote learning, then the in-school speech standards apply. But when they're at a convenience store on the weekend with their friend, then that's when parents have authority over what their kids can and cannot say. And unless it rises to the level of a threat or harassment or very severe bullying, then schools need to step back and let parents do their jobs. So, clearly, I think everyone in this case agrees that bullying speech and harassing and threatening speech are a serious problem. But we think that there's much more narrow ways that school districts can deal with that problem, with those problematic categories of speech, than simply being able to punish kids for anything they say outside of school simply because it could have a disruptive effect on the school. So what we've argued is that there is room within the First Amendment to allow schools to reach the problematic speech without also allowing schools to punish kids for virtually anything they say outside of school.
So what would the kind of perfect gray area look like for you, Sarah? What would schools ideally have in place in terms of their systems for dealing with these things as they, of course, continue to come up?
I think the one thing to remember is that there's a lot of ways that schools can deal with student speech, both in school and out of school, that doesn't involve punishment. We had an amicus brief, a front of the court brief filed on our behalf by a number of professors who study school discipline. And what they've argued is that, punishing kids for their speech is not an effective way to deal with bullying and harassment. And there's much more effective ways that we know of to help kids who are being bullied and harassed, and to prevent kids from bullying and harassing other kids. So, the reflexive need of school districts to punish kids is not really effective, and it also violates their First Amendment rights.
Thanks for watching Bloomberg Quick Take Now. Subscribe to our channel to see the biggest stories the moment they happen from around the world. And tune into our 24/7 live stream for global news coverage, interviews, deep dives, shows, and documentaries on the stories you care about most.